While I understand calls for a ceasefire at this stage, I do not believe that it is the correct position now.
Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
The Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, says in the national newspaper this morning that there will be no resiling from support for Israel. Do you agree with that?
I think that must be right.
All you've talked about, Owen, is your obsession, the obsession with so many people around the issue around Palestine. It's been an obsession forever.
So do you think there are aspects of genocide in the dictionary version of genocide?
I don't know. You know, the ICJ is the right place for that to be determined.
You support the order to move them or not?
The order to move them? Well, clearly.
Just yes or no?
It's not a yes or no, Victoria. I'm hoping one day to be Foreign Secretary and a Chief Diplomat, so it's not a yes or no.
Why not? Why not?
Can I answer the question?
Please.
Very simply. This is a war situation. War is ugly.
Yes.
Very, very sadly, people die.
Israel does have that right to defend herself.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water? Sakir?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law.
Do you think Israel breached international law by cutting off water and power supplies?
Look, I think this is an extraordinarily complex and fast-moving situation. There are 200 hostages.
And what's the answer to the question?
Well, look, Israel has the right to self-defence, and it has a duty to secure the release of its hostages.
Sure. But my question was,
ensure that international law is upheld.
Right, and so my question is, do you think Israel has breached international humanitarian law by cutting off water and fuel supplies?
Well, in the last 24 hours, we've seen water, medicine and food enter Gaza. It is in very limited supply.
I am going to ask the question again. Do you think Israel breached international law by cutting off power and water supply?
Look, I'm not going to sit in your studio and grandstand and tell you that I'm going to make big pronouncements.
What about those that are literally living under siege at the moment in Gaza? No water, no electricity, no power. A word for them?
No, nobody wants to see that situation, but we have to be clear where responsibility is. Responsibility with Hamas. I think it's very important that the world stands up and is clear about that and stands with Israel.
I don't know, because at the moment we're in the middle of a hot war and Israel is in the middle of defending itself. And we have to stand with Israel, just like we would expect people to stand with us if we were the victims of terrorism as well.
And Israel should be able and must be able to defend itself.
Where I disagree with those who've, in terms of colleagues in Parliament on this question of ceasefire is, OK, you've voted for a ceasefire. You've told your constituents that you've done that and the principle that you've stood on. How's that come about? Where's this ceasefire coming from?